So great to see everyone today. For those who've been to other Marketers Guild events, welcome back. And for those just joining for the first time, great. Always love to see new faces here. We've got a special edition today with David, who's founded Creator Pro and just built some amazing modules that are AI driven to solve a slew of big challenges out there. But he's also a tremendous teacher and just has helped, I don't know how many hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands.
Yeah, tens of thousands over the years. Yeah.
It's wild. So David, I'll let you do a better intro for yourself and then just dive in because I know there's a lot you want to cover today.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Thanks for having me here, David. It's been also, as you said in the beginning, it's been a big pleasure to reconnect via Jim. And a little bit about myself. I actually so I found a company called Creator Pro AI, which I'll show you a little bit later. We build custom GPTs and also do trainings for ChatGPT. So I made a decision to focus on. I learned quickly early on that the vast majority of people struggle with how to create prompts, how to figure out how to actually use ChatGPT for advanced workflows. So started building all of these GPTs, and then that evolved into this complete training approach. I actually have a different type of background than a lot of folks who are working in AI. I started off my career as a religion scholar. I was in a PhD program at Princeton. I used to study these mass movements, these movements known as Great Awakenings, and then went from studying how big mass movements grow and spread to then building them on behalf of brands. I used to run social media for Volkswagen and worked with a bunch of agencies in New York, and that evolved into developing a dialogue-based approach to innovation, co-creation, collaboration. I've written 4 books. Spent the most of my career building this like dialogue-based approach to innovation, teaching people how to communicate better, build better products and services, collaborate in their teams, and that's kind of evolved into my approach to AI and ChatGPT in particular. At the beginning of last year, I started to, like a lot of people, I started going through ChatGPT obsessively, and I very quickly learned that you had to figure out how to actually go from start to finish doing workflows. That you really had to kind of turn the AI to give it a persona. I started playing around with crafting prompts, and on a very intuitive level, I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could create GPTs that did all the prompt engineering for you, so that you could basically just show up and do the work and go from start to finish. And that led me to create. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you a little bit about my approach with Creator Pro, which I think is different than almost anything in the marketplace as it relates to ChatGPT. And then we'll get into actually doing a live training. And I thought it would be a fun exercise as a group if we could build the brand and develop some content and personas for AIMG. So you're all AIMG community members, so I thought we could go through that live together. So I'm just going to show you this real quick. And I'm going to drop a couple of links into the chat as well. So Creator Pro, basically, it's a complete business accelerator system. We have GPTs for leadership and strategy. We have GPTs for marketing and growth, clients and content, coaching and community. And we also just launched a suite specific of GPTs specifically for AI marketers and agency owners. So I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview of the whole system and then show you the marketing suites, and also give you a link to access the first GPT that we're going to use. But basically, GPTs around vision and leadership, product development, innovation, how to actually create full products, technical implementation plans, integrate AI into your workflows, looking at finance, strategy, positioning, AIs for marketing and growth, looking at sales and revenue, how do you build value ladders, respond to RFPs, how do you do all full-scale digital marketing campaigns, lead magnets, funnels, cold email, B2B, drip campaigns, digital ad campaign builders, building different types of ad variations. And then how do you do, think of AI as your CMO. We're going to go today through the brand architect and then the ICP. And I should say in the beginning, the stuff we're going to go through today is a taste of an advanced marketing certification, AI marketing certification program that we're going to be doing as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. So then this is just a quick overview of the full system. So then we have GPTs around client services, project planning, how do you actually create client progress reports, feedback surveys and analysis, AIs for GPTs for specific types of content creation, also for using DALL-E and creating consistent designs and logos and stuff like that. And then also for GPTs around coaching programs, client services, personal development. And we just launched, in particular, this suite that is a kind of condensed version of the full system that is specifically for AI marketers and agency owners. So it has kind of a sort of best, kind of like the select GPTs all in one place. I thought it would be fun as an exercise if we went through building the brand for AIMG. And I'm actually going to, give me a second, I'll give you a link so that all of you can access the GPT that we're going to go through. Let me just find the chat. Can't access the chat, it's not displaying. There we go. So that's a quick link to be able to access the GPT that we're going to go through together. All of my GPTs take an approach called chain of thought. So, it's interesting to me, I've been talking about chain of thought for almost 2 years. And chain of thought is it's an approach that literally it's like chaining a bunch of thoughts together. It's guiding you step by step, similar to how an expert would guide you step by step through a process. And the chain of thought reasoning is the same approach that's used by the latest model that just came out about a week ago. So there's been a bunch of studies that have come out in the past in the past week that have said that the latest version of ChatGPT with the reasoning model sequencing together 10 to 12 reasoning steps is comparable in reasoning quality to a PhD level expert. The challenge with the reasoning model, I'm not sure if anyone here has played around with it since it came out. It also has some limitations. One thing, it takes 30 to 60 seconds to actually to respond. it's not very conversational. The latest version of the reasoning model tends to basically have a very kind of specific format. It also can't access files. It can't access the internet. And it doesn't seem to do well with tone of voice. So it's very good for, it can be very good for specific types of strategic problems, but as a kind of daily use, it can be a bit limited. Then on the other hand, you have like the basic version of ChatGPT, which is, you as the user are responsible for doing all of the prompting, telling ChatGPT what to do, and so on. So with the approach that I've taken with Creator Pro, it's kind of a hybrid or a sort of middle ground between those two approaches. So you can see here, I opened up this GPT. It says, let's build my brand. What are the steps? What do you need for me to get started? And then this is essentially the chain of thought process that we are going to go through as a group. So it's going to start saying, problem identification and target audience. Then we're going to go through crafting solutions. We'll look at features. We'll look at benefits. We'll look at the core values and mission statement, the unique value proposition, positioning, and hero statement. Then we'll articulate a higher noble purpose. And then at the end, we'll even look at some possible tone, color palette, fonts, and visual aesthetics. So basically, in a very quick, seamless process, you're able to develop a complete, comprehensive brand, including tone of voice, color palette, and so on, something that you could basically give to a designer or anyone on your content team. So why don't we start off and just kind of go through this as a group. Feel free to post ideas in the chat, or if you want to just go ahead and share out loud. We're going to start off by saying, let's start first by identifying the problem. So what is the problem that we are solving with AIMG?
Yeah, happy to hear from the group and say, like, what problems do you want AIMG to solve for you? What problems do you have that might have led you to join this or even join us today? So glad to get some community input on this.
How do I leverage ChatGPT?
Actually, I've been playing with this way of doing demos. Actually, and I've been playing around a lot lately with voice to text. Why don't we actually switch and do this inside of the ChatGPT app, and then folks can talk. If you want to talk, we can capture your voice in voice to text. So I don't know how many of you have actually played around with the ChatGPT app. A lot of times, the most common way of using it is you would select this, and and this basically brings you into a real-time conversation mode. I actually find that it's the problem with this. The problem with this approach is that if you're doing actual work, it starts to respond to questions. Sometimes if you're thinking, it will cut you off. So I found it can be more helpful to use the microphone, and then basically you can kind of talk and walk through things. My workflow actually with my GPTs has been that I'll basically load up a bunch of documents, load up a GPT, and then I'll take a walk. And then essentially when I get back, my most important work of the day is done without even staring at a screen. And this can also be really helpful if you're between meetings or you're just kind of on the go. So with that in mind, why don't we play around with this? So if you could actually just talk out loud, what are the problems that we're trying to solve, or the problems that you would like to be solved, as David said, with AIMG?
Well, this is great. We've got Sato who's already contributing here. And so here's what one of our members needs: to fill in the gaps in my knowledge of AI in marketing and research and insights, and to network with smart people.
Thank you.
Great.
Oh, and we've got Jay-Z wanting to contribute too.
Yeah, thanks, David. And there's a lot of hype around all these AI marketing software. So I wanted to know what people are actually getting value out of instead of just the hype.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we have another from Aileen: jumpstart marketers with shared insights and leading tools, growth hacking AI.
Okay, well, why don't we start with that? So one of the I've been doing this as like a new workflow in the past month with clients and stuff, and it's been a lot of fun. The nice thing about this switching back and forth using the ChatGPT app is also I can add stuff as well. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna actually grab the URL for AIMG. So I'm gonna say we are doing a brainstorm. Here is, is input from the group. This is our website. And so notice here, I mean, everyone talks about how, like, I'd say the primary and dominant approach to learning how to use ChatGPT, everyone focuses on prompt engineering and prompt packs, and you have to copy and paste this, and you have to, if you just have this and you pop in your brand, all of a sudden you're going to have something that's great. The problem with that approach that I've learned over the past like 2 years is that, especially if you're not a technical marketer, oftentimes what ends up happening is the things that are the most important to you, you start filtering them out. And instead of having your creative ideas, the things that are most interesting to you, you try and fit your ideas into some type of specific predefined format. And you actually end up getting results that are not as good because you're trying to be like too quote unquote technical or too precise, because there's a lot of these assumptions that, okay, AI is a computer, it must be like programming. I have to be as precise as possible because that's how everyone that I know that writes code is. That's actually not the case. What I've found is that the best approach to using AI, especially if you come from a non-technical background, and especially with these chain of thought GPTs, is to basically communicate in what I call a stream of consciousness approach. So basically, you just speak the things that are the most important to you, speaking full thoughts. There's a concept in writing. So I've written a few books. I used to do some writing coaching. Writing and editing are actually two different things. So the problem sometimes with the prompt engineering approach is you're writing and editing at the same time. So people often get like writer's block because, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? It has to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. These are natural language models. So what we want to do then is encourage this open, fluid stream of consciousness communication, and then understand that it's the role of the GPT to do the editing, the synthesizing, the analysis, the guiding, and so on. So in this case, you can see here we've got, we're in stage 1, problem identification and target audience. It's even saying it sounds like you have a vibrant community and are actively gathering insights from your members to define the brand's direction. So just based upon the little bit of input we had from the groups there, we're identifying now, we wanted to identify knowledge gaps in AI and marketing. So members are seeking to fill gaps in the understanding of AI and how it applies to marketing research, navigating hype versus value, and then networking and learning from experts. We didn't really talk much about our target audience, but it's making some assumptions about them. So it's saying marketers and researchers, growth hackers and innovators, community-driven leaders. I'm actually not sure that's the target audience. So maybe we should dive a little bit deeper into that. It's even asking for us to go a little bit deeper. With these GPTs, you can basically say that looks great, or you can also dive a little bit deeper. Why don't we dive a little bit deeper on this, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about the target audience and if anything's missing.
Sure. Well, and I'll start on this one because the first-hand knowledge can be helpful for refining it. Most of our members do have 10 plus years experience in marketing. They typically come from a mix of agencies, brands, tech startups, either the founders or the heads of marketing there. There's some in supporting fields and roles like a lot of senior sales folks, a lot of people who are now doing consulting or at consulting firm. The brand side folks come from a range of verticals. Yeah, that's a lot of who's participating today.
I would add to David's point, we want to work with data-driven marketers who have always been using the data and have an understanding of the reliability of their underlying data. So the Disneys and PepsiCos of the world. Conversely, if you want to try and get as much change as possible, you could pick a laggard industry like pharma or financial services, and you would have a lifetime of consulting.
But that is also a good point, that while we have a lot of subject matter experts in their fields and people who are often like very savvy about what they've done to date, it's a big mix of people who are leading the charge in AI, like yourself, David, and a lot of people on this call, and a lot of people who don't have any clue where to begin. And so they might be have 30 years of tremendous marketing experience, and they know no clue how to tell one AI tool from another, one prompt for all of that's new.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'm gonna go ahead and enter that. And the nice thing about this type of workflow is if you do the voice to text and then transcribe, I can still upload files, I can still add stuff, I can also edit the conversation. One thing that I've done, one thing that I like to do, especially if I'm on my phone, is ChatGPT does a very good job of just giving me this kind of quick high-level overview, and it's very readable with the categories and subcategories and stuff. So if I'm walking, I can even just say, like, I like knowledge gaps, I don't like navigating hype, I like the networking and learning, not such a fan of this, I love this. And so I can basically just literally speak in a chain of thought, kind of like dictating what I like and don't like. And then the AI model will contextually kind of understand what I'm saying, because I'm giving in my speech as I'm going through, I'm kind of signifying where I'm at in terms of what I'm providing feedback on. And so it's almost like I literally have a personal assistant that's dictating and following things and making updates in real time for me.
Maybe it's worth mentioning here that it only works in iPhone, iPad. I could not get this to work in a Microsoft system. It won't allow you to talk. So I'm doing exactly what David is doing, but on my iPhone in the app. It's really cool.
So you can see it's picking up on, it's basically taken all of this conversation from David and Eileen and our inputs, and now it's starting to say, okay, a little bit more, giving us a more refined problem identification and target audience. So The problem identification is a little bit more sophisticated now. The target audience is a little bit more sophisticated. Does this capture the brand's essence and your vision? I think this looks pretty good for now. I'll say this looks good. So notice I can switch back and forth between like typing stuff, voice to text, a mix of both. I can also, if I'm kind of short on time, or also from a brand building perspective as a marketer, if I don't know what the brand is, I can go through this process and then basically ask, instead of answering all of these different questions, I can then I can ask it to start providing me with some ideas. So you can see, for example, we're getting into possible solutions for AIMG. It's already starting to shift from like asking me a bunch of questions as it was before, to then it's starting to, based upon all the stuff we've shared, it's contextually starting to suggest, okay, educational content and workshops, curated AI tools and resources, networking and community building, data-driven insights and case studies, consulting and advisory services, exclusive access to AI trends and thought leadership. So it's starting to, based upon, it says, given the problems we identified, your brand should offer solutions that not only educate and connect, but also provide practical, actionable insights. Here are some potential solution directions. So it's nice from a brand building perspective, especially if you're like thinking about some possible thing. This can also be great if you're in like the pitch phase. So if you're pitching a potential client, and you're running an agency, you're trying to go after them and thinking of, okay, what could their brand be? This can be great for very quickly pulling together detailed proposals, stuff like that. It's saying some questions for refinement. Which of these solutions resonate the most with your vision for the brand? And then it'll say, do you see any gaps in these suggestions that you need to be addressed? Why don't we open this up again and let's just talk through, maybe it might be fun for the purposes of this if we drill down into a couple of these and kind of expand them a little bit more.
I think one of the values that David brings to AIMG is the curation of tools and like giving it his stamp of approval. A couple months ago, you started posting that. Do you agree, David? I mean,
yeah, and that's even one of the literal forms of value. I'll actually post that link into the chat, because I don't know if everyone's even seen it. And for those who are working on things, you can submit yours. But like that is, I mean, it's why we love having all these great startup demos. We have the VC firm Hannah Gray coming in and doing startup demos this week. So yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts we want to drill down into here?
I think number 4, case studies, would be really helpful. We do get a lot of great speakers, and it would be good to see sometimes some more specific actionable items that we can come away with based on specifically what we've seen.
Okay.
Yeah, I would echo Paul's comment and just add to that, like quantify the impact of what's the business impact. And it can be ROI, it can be cost reduction, it can be anything. But if we're going to be working with early adopters, we have to give them a couple of shards of proof and evidence that it works.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so it's saying it's great to hear about the value David and others are already bringing to AIMG, particularly around the curation of AI tools showcasing real applications. Let's refine the solutions to emphasize these unique contributions and focus on providing tangible. Okay, so now we've got a refined set of solutions. Basically, the way that the GPTs that I've built work is they have reasoning libraries. So this is this type of like dialogue-based approach. This is basically what I've spent most of my career doing. And so it's almost like from a kind of technical perspective, it's kind of like it's auto-magically applying a mega prompt every time you hit respond. So instead of you having to say, to write out a detailed thing about exactly what you want to do, all the actions that you want performed, the types of things that you do in more advanced prompt engineering, it basically just does all of that for you, which means just from kind of like a creativity and energy workflow perspective, you get to focus all of your energy on like ideas, high level things, the things that are the most important to you. And you don't have to worry so much about the the crafting the prompt. Because what I found is specifically crafting the prompts and communicating what's most important to you. Oftentimes those could be two different types of things for people. And so I tend to think of those as actually two different layers of communication. They both become important. I typically teach prompt engineering after people have spent like 8 to 10 hours using the GPTs and they get the hang of what it's like, the user experience. So we've got like curated AI tools and resources, case studies with quantified business impact, exclusive startup demos and thought leader events, practical insights, actionable strategies from industry experts, quantification of AI's impact for early adopters. I'm just going to say, this looks great. Let's proceed. And now we're going to start getting into features. Essentially what we're doing is we're building out like at the category level and then like a subcategory level, just going a layer deeper. The reason why we do solutions and then features is I did a lot of testing on this stuff, and I found like solutions are great for like the high level, most important things that you might want to feature on a website, or the most important things that grab someone's attention on a pitch deck or something like that. And then you get more detailed into the features. And I've also found with the reasoning capabilities of ChatGPT, like you really want to build out detailed outlines and do a kind of fact check before you start expanding. One of the biggest problems with hallucinations is when you go from like having a very simple prompt and then you get a completely long response, and then you don't necessarily know where all of those answers or suggestions and stuff are coming from. So we've got AI curated tool directory, interactive case study library, startup demo sessions, and live Q&A. So it's starting to kind of build a little bit deeper layer on the stuff that we've been talking about. How does this land with folks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good mix of what we offer and some feedback from things like case studies that can make it way better. So yeah.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna say, I kind of cut off your.
No. This is great. And people are sitting on any great case studies that you want to share, then know you're going to have a really good audience here. So you can DM me after. Make this real-time community adaptation here.
I designed, next we're going to get into, I have it actually split out functional and emotional benefits. I used to do this a lot when I worked on building brands and like repositioning companies. What I found is a lot of times people tend to think very much about the functional aspects of what they're doing or the emotional, but oftentimes they don't think of them together. And it's very helpful sometimes to kind of separate them and think about the specific aspects of, okay, how am I functionally benefiting? And then the emotional benefits, the confidence, decision-making, sense of community and belonging, inspiration from innovation, reduced overwhelm in a complex field. Like there's when you split them apart and then integrate them together, it's very helpful from a brand building perspective.
Hey,
And
David and David, there's no mention of the events in here. You're also part of AIMG is to be the connecting tissue through events. Is it too late to put that in?
No, it's not. I'm going to
And we
say,
do have, well, in number 3, we do have live startup demos, Q&As, and so there is some of that, but that it's based so much around live events might get buried a little, Jim. So it's a good point.
so this is all great. One of the things that we were saying is that what's missing from this explicitly is live events. So we've been talking about demos, we've been talking about live Q&A. Those are types of events, but the more broader event category is missing.
Cool.
And David, there's one question while it does this.
So yeah,
just,
go for it.
So like when you're doing these chain of thought things, right? Like
Yeah.
and so I mean I get how some of that chain is essentially, you know, built into the custom GPT, right? So it's telling you like after we do this, after we do part 1, now we're going to go to step 2 and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is there almost any way to get ChatGPT to like push back, like say you gave a sort of non-answer, right? Or you know that something needs to be thought through. Like can it yet get to the point where it's even a little bit more of like a sparring partner rather than just like the assistant doing what you tell it?
You can. One thing that you can do. So for something like that, you might want to either create a specific GPT, or you could also modify your custom instructions. So you could have your custom instructions is like it's like a global setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can have the one way of doing it is to have the AI respond with 3 questions after everything that you've said. You can also have the GPT respond with a confidence score of like 1 to 100. So sometimes when things start when they feel kind of like they're getting off the rails, oftentimes the model probably has a low confidence score in its responses, but it's not going to explicitly tell you that it's not so confident in their response.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the challenges, the biggest challenge with the way that AI models are today, is that they're kind of designed to please you,
Right.
and so it's kind of like a teenager. You know, it's like designed with ADHD. Like, you know, it's like it's always wants to please you. It's always wants to focus on one thing. It's not going to necessarily say that's a bad idea unless you explicitly ask it to. But you can add those types of levels of critique and stuff into your custom instructions.
Can we get into the pleasing thing? Because if you do your own prompt engineering, not necessarily this chain of thought, but if you're polite, you get better results, and that's across platforms. Do you have insights
Yeah.
as to why that may be?
It's not only that you give that if you're polite, it's also if you're sharing how you're feeling, you also get better results.
Right.
And I think that, you know, this goes back to some of the stuff they said about prompt engineering in the beginning. There's this kind of view that I have to be very technical and precise in what I'm asking for. And in certain contexts, that's important. But oftentimes, oftentimes you will intuitively, like when you're expressing your emotions, there's something intuitive there that's very important for you. And sometimes, you know, it's almost like talking with a real person. Sometimes you need to kind of voice things out, and then the underlying thing that's most important to you will emerge. And I think it's the same thing with AI.
Yeah, I used Claude a lot I was helping a friend win a seat in Parliament.
Mm.
And Claude is very prosaic. and she wanted more bullet points, and Claude forgot. I'm like, exactly what you're saying. I was like, I'm frustrated. Did you forget? Like, I have to retrain you on this. I told you this about her style, and I uploaded lots of documents.
Mm. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I've also, you know, it's funny, I've also had probably the most counterintuitive thing for me in using AI. I had someone in one of my group coaching groups say, I've never felt more seen before as I do with AI. Because I think what's happening is a lot of times people are communicating the things that are the most important to them, and then you immediately get a response back that is reasoned, that is like supportive, that's non-judgmental. And I think that the real magic for me with this stuff happens when you're just kind of getting these cycles of like, I'm going to express the things that are most important to me, whether it's my creativity or ideas or business planning or whatever, and then you immediately get that response back. That's also, I think it's also similar to like flow states, you know, like you're just kind of in this kind of like higher level thinking and reasoning. You're really kind of in your flow. And I think flow combined with AI is where the real superpowers come. You know, when you like flow states for like typically for deep work, you know, you have to be hyper focused and concentrated and free of distractions and stuff like that. And flow states are associated with, you know, 400% increases in productivity. I used to do a lot of teaching around like flow states and productivity for leadership stuff. But what I found with AI is that if you get in this kind of intuitive communication mode, you're able to tap into flow and the productivity without the cognitive burden of having to format everything. So you can actually be consistent and highly productive over longer periods of time. Whereas like typically like regular deep work, after about 2 hours, you're just kind of fried. It's like, you know, like you can only super deep concentrate for so long. But I found with generative AI, it really like the offload of the cognitive burden of the processing and analysis combined with the very quick idea stuff. It's just that's for me has been the real superpower with it. So we're starting to look now at core values, mission statements. It's coming up with a few different mission statement suggestions. Core values, expertise and credibility, community and collaboration, innovation, practicality, transparency and integrity, continuous learning and growth. It's coming up with some suggested mission statements. How does this stuff land for you, David?
It's look like it's hitting on a lot of the right value, you know, mission statements. You could spend like 6 months going back and forth on some of the wording, but I'm a much bigger fan of just getting it pretty close. Yeah.
Is there one of these that stands out for you that maybe we might want to ask you to expand on?
Well, I will say number 3 is probably one where I'd basically I'd go with number 3 for the mission statement. I like connect, educate, and inspire. I'd probably just tweak the end to navigate the AI landscape with confidence and impact. I'd say to something more about to make an impact on their roles and careers through the use of AI, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, something about arming them with today's marketing capabilities or marketing skill set, right? I think people in marketing roles saw a whole bunch of CMOs get kicked to the curb because they didn't keep up with digital.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
So we came up with to connect, educate, and inspire marketers through curated tools, real-world insights, and live events, empowering them to make a significant impact on their roles and careers through the use of AI.
And not bad for a couple minutes of work here. Oh, but I do want to hear what Seda has to say.
Quick question. Is it only about educating, inspiring, or is there any angle related to those collaborating who wants to monetize AI?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, using this to transform their businesses. I mean, to actually,
Or create some joint ventures, come together when there's time to, generate income from it, etc.
Absolutely, and I will say, like, hiring, job seeking, finding co-founders, looking for sources for investment, all that is happening. I've got a thread about in my DMs on a Marketers Guild about someone who's doing a raise right now. So these kinds of things very literally come up all the time. Great points.
Okay, let's integrate some of that as well.
So I'm using it to raise funds for a client right now. There you go.
Cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Again, we can fine tune, but I don't want to miss some of the final things, especially with hitting the 10-minute mark here.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, and so we're going through this level of, progressive, from, it's kind of like a funnel, right? There's the big picture stuff. We're getting progressively more and more refined. And now we get to the point where we're getting to the UVP, the positioning statements, hero statements. Now we're like, having gone through all of that stuff, we're now arrived at a point where we have something that's, very crystal clear, kind of clarifying the brand vision and so on. I'm going to say, just for the sake of time, I'm going to say, looks great. I want to see what it comes up with for your, so now we're going to come up with a tone, color palette, fonts, visual aesthetics. So it can even pull in specific, it will start recommending based upon kind of established best practices for brands. It will start recommending some different fonts, different color palettes, and so on. So you can see basically, in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, we built a brand, going through this dialogue, following this best practices. And we essentially have, a kind of brand guidelines that you could then use for any type of content or anything like that.
And I gotta say, just one thing that comes to mind, like there are tools that folks might have seen here, like Venturous, for instance, and that I just put it in the chat. That it's like, if you could give it a simple prompt or even just like a website and have it do some of this, right? But without any of that interactivity and without making you think about it, like I find these things, like, they're great showpieces. It's really nice if you want to say, like, and if I've just done a favor and run some premium reports for some friends and said, like, here's a good starting point, right? But then it's like you still need to then have it go into an LLM like a ChatGPT and say, let's talk about this and work with it, because otherwise it's just like words on a page. And this is, at the very least, it reminds me a little bit of the how they realized that if you've got like the baking mixes, you have to crack a few eggs or it doesn't feel like your own product.
Exactly.
Paul.
I'm going to drop a couple links into the chat. And I want to also, one of them is a link to download the GPT that we just went through.
Okay.
And then I want to also just go through and talk about the AI marketing advanced training programs and the certification program that we have coming up.
David, really quickly, what's your perspective on how different this would be from just using standard ChatGPT as opposed to a custom GPT to get these kinds of results?
I think it's so there's a couple of things. One, I think it's significantly different. I would also say that it's significantly faster. And so and it's not only significantly faster, it's also just an overall it's faster with better results and less cognitive burden on you. So I think that, I mean, in my approach to ChatGPT, like I think there's times when you just need to get something done, especially when there's a kind of complex, high value workflow. And it's just nice to have that guided process. Sometimes you might want something that's kind of like your all-purpose brand expert, and you're doing a little bit more dialogue back and forth. I think it's kind of varies. The way that I've tried to approach building Creator Pro is building out a suite of tools that are designed for specific advanced workflows, and then teaching you how to switch back and forth with them. It's also especially helpful for beginners because they can learn how to use AI and have the experience without having to before they start worrying about prompt engineering. Prompt engineering, I think, is something that I think of it as a form of communication. It's a form of more advanced communication. So today is kind of a taste of a series of 3-hour more advanced training workshops. David and I have been talking about what would it look like to do a ChatGPT training specifically for advanced AI marketers. I've spent at this point about 3,000 hours using ChatGPT, and I've done a lot of these trainings. I got really excited about the idea of taking a more kind of advanced group through the higher level stuff of what's possible. So the vision around this is to do 4 high impact masterminds. These could be available. You could participate live or access them on demand. Really just going through all of the core skill sets that I think we're all going to need as marketers going into the future. So we've got about 5 minutes. I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit fast, and we'll follow up with all of you by email. But the vision for the program is basically we're looking at 4 mastermind sessions. The first one would be around mastering ChatGPT with chain of thought reasoning, advanced prompt engineering, collaborative AI skills. We would look also at the new reasoning model that came out, how to basically address some of the stuff, Paul, that you asked, like how do you think about switching back and forth between them? And this is kind of like a foundations of AI for marketers. So looking at chain of thought, advanced prompt techniques, collaborative AI integration into your workflows, stuff like that. The next one would be looking at something like what we did today, but we would go through a brand building exercise, then also teach you how to create custom instructions, how to take the outputs from a brand building and design your own custom GPT. So you might have something that's an expert trained on your brand, and then looking at how to leverage that for content planning using content calendars and different types of GPTs to automate content creation. So this would be around, kind of like thinking of AI as your CMO and decision-making around brand building, content planning, campaign strategy, and then building specific GPTs. Then we would get into the next one, which would be looking at like personas, customer journey mapping, lead generation. This is really more along the lines of, I would say, like traditional B2B stuff or stuff you might be doing on LinkedIn, doing outreach to companies, more kind of direct, high value outreach and targeting, also developing personas around investment, or if you're thinking of going after multiple different types of personas, who multiple different types of audiences. How do you find a balance between a primary persona and different secondary personas, looking at that in the context of content creation, funnel building, stuff like that. And then the last one would be looking at cross-channel marketing and campaign development, really looking at AI for analytics, data-driven decision-making, and so on. I'm going to go through this really fast just because of time. But basically, there's a few different options for people to participate. We're looking at four different workshops that would finish before Thanksgiving. This is really, I would say, kind of like a test run with AIMG, really doing our best to bring the absolute best practices and how to use ChatGPT. I think going into the future, my personal view is that we're all going to use a bunch of different tools, but ChatGPT is going to be kind of the thing that we all need to know how to use. It's going to be kind of our reasoning partner, our creative director, our co-pilot in everything moving forward. So we need to be thinking about that from a career development perspective. So I've tried to focus on these core essential skill sets that basically every AI marketer is going to need for the foreseeable future. And we try to have this in a way where there could be on-demand options for people, options to participate in live training. And then also, if you want to just go through the core trainings and access specific GPTs in them, or if you want to access the broader Creator Pro suite as well. And then there's also different payment plan options in terms of full payment or installments. And there's for everyone in the call, if you're interested, there's a AIMG is a $50 off discount code for any of these. So in addition to the early bird pricing as well. I'm happy to stay over. I wanted to get through everything and be mindful that some people have really hard stops at the top of the hour.
Yeah. Well, if anyone else wants to stay and have any other questions, let us know. But this is great. I mean, it's a new kind of pilot program for more of the kinds of training we want to offer here, and appreciate everyone getting to sample some of it live. I love getting to chat with David here because I'm always learning how to do my job better. So thank you for the both like the instruction and inspiration. Yeah, if there are further questions, let us know. Otherwise, we'll see some of you in the Hannah Gray session on Wednesday and elsewhere in the community.
So David, I know the plan was to go into a little bit, take the output of the brand architect, the brand builder, and then go a little bit into the ICP. For those that, the ideal customer profile, for those that stay over, can you do that?
Sure.
Because this is my favorite one. I won 2 deals with this GPT.
When did you start with that?
Someone asked me about the discount code. I just posted it's AIMG as the discount code. I wasn't very creative with coming up with the discount code, so there's kept it easy.